Good evening. My name is Brent Sarver, and I'm joining you here from our Google office in Sydney. I'm a part of the Google for Education team, and I'm excited to be joining you tonight with some of our members of the larger Google for Education team. We're going to be talking to you about a number of things. We're excited that you've taken this opportunity to join us. But before we delve into the why we're here and what we're going to cover, I want to make sure we make an opportunity to introduce the members of our larger team. So Kim, from our Google for Education adoption team.
Thanks, Brent. Hi, I'm Kim Sutton, and I'm a former teacher, come straight from the classroom into my role here at Google. It's my job to support teachers, admin staff, and leaders on helping understand how they can use Google tools in their schools. Tonight, I'm going to share with you some of my tips and tricks in getting started with Google.
Thanks, Kim. She's got some great tips and tricks, so I look forward to that. Also, joining us from our customer success team, Steve.
Hey, I'm Steve. As Brent said, I lead our customer success team here. So I work with large customers to help them deploy both G Suite and Google Chromebooks, primarily from a technical perspective. So tonight I got the tech topic, I guess. I'm talking about security and how to keep your school's data safe.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have a larger network of teams that help us think about how to best prepare to enter schools with our resources and to support your all's needs. So you might be asking yourself, why is Google for Education hosting this webinar? And more than anything, we just want to make sure that we're providing opportunities for you all, our users, to hear directly from our team and the larger teams that go to support our ecosystem. A few things that we want to make sure we cover tonight is, first and foremost, the role of technology in the classroom. It's often discussed and the impact that technology can actually have on student achievement. So we want to address that and specifically how our ecosystem, the Google for Education platforms, play into that. Secondly, we want to talk about how, through Google for Education tools and resources, we can better help you increase access to technology. We no longer think that the device itself should be a barrier, and we'll talk about the ways in which our solutions can help you provide that access. Kim's already mentioned that she's going to talk to us specifically about tips and tricks. We often say here at Google, let's focus on the teaching, less teching, more teaching. So excited for Kim to share those tips so that you can take them and turn right around and use them in the classroom. And then Steve mentioned that he's going to be talking specifically about security. It's a question that often comes up, not only for us, but across the larger ecosystem in education. We want to make sure that we're equipping you with the information that you need to know how our software and our hardware is secure and a viable solution for you to use in your educational institutions across Australia and New Zealand. So sit back. We're excited that you're joining us. We want this to be about you. At Google, we're all about our users, so we're building this for you, our users. More than anything, please don't forget, this is meant to be as interactive as possible. So as you listen to the various sessions, be sure that you're asking questions along the way, because Kim, Steve, and myself will make sure that we're doing our best to answer those questions as they arrive. Thanks again for joining us. Hey again, Brent here.
And Kim?
The first thing we want to chat with you about tonight is, what is the role of technology in the classroom? I think this is something that as a team we often think about, but then also something that folks who are in education and thinking about how to bring technology into the classroom often think about and discuss. So let's just start right now by addressing the big elephant in the room. There really isn't a lot of conclusive evidence that says one way or the other how technology impacts and can it actually have a significant impact on student achievement. If that's news to you, surprise, but I think more importantly is, as opposed to trying to do this research and figure out what is the impact, it's going back to basics and realizing that the educator is actually still the most important piece of the classroom, right?
That's right.
Our view in terms of technology coming into the classroom is that it's really just meant to be a tool. And when we talk about tools, we're talking about things like G Suite for Education, our collaborative, things that we have to offer, or the various learning resources like content that you might be getting from third parties to bring in, various reading, writing, arithmetic, whatever it might be, exercises for your students. But really, technology is a tool. The teacher is the epicenter of making learning happen in the classroom. And so here at Google, what we really want to do is we want to be thoughtful about our technology, how we've built it, and how that technology can help amplify the awesome things that we know you're doing in your classrooms across Australia, New Zealand, and the world for that matter. So with that being said, just have a quick look here. This is just an idea we have in terms of refocusing on the fact that technology is meant to really impact the work that you're doing. It's
That's
meant
right.
to be the...
It's meant to help you.
Yeah.
It's not meant to drive, by all means, but accelerate.
Absolutely. And I think we've talked about that before quite a bit, is
we have.
how you've used the various tools to impact the work that you did in your classroom, but also helping other educators in your former school life. With that, we really want to focus on some of the tools that we offer across the Google for Education platform. So you might be familiar with a number of these. Fundamentally, it's G Suite for Education, our collaborative tools. You want to rattle through a few of the ones that you use most frequently?
Oh, most frequently. How about all of them? Drive, docs, sheets, slides,
Our favorite?
forms.
Definitely a part of the core platform.
That's right.
Beyond that, we also we offer our software, but we'll talk about our hardware as well. And later throughout our time together today, we'll jump into that hardware in particular, but also the management of that hardware and how we work to keep it secure and make sure that the full ecosystem, when it comes to delivering Google for Education tools into the classroom, are meeting the needs and, again, amplifying that learning. So more than just thinking about, okay, we know that technology has a role to play, we're still figuring out how to make that role impactful and not undermine anything that educators are already doing, but to amplify that. We really have done a lot of work, and it's cool to have you here, Kim, because you're on the Google for Education adoption team, and that team actually sits in offices globally. And we've done a lot of work with various educators, various schools that have adopted our tools. And also we've worked with some colleges throughout the globe that are renowned for teacher education and getting educators prepared for the ever-changing classroom. What we've done is we've actually identified some learning principles, which you're going to walk us through, and I'm excited to chat through that. But as we think about our technology, it's not just, here's the Google for Education ecosystem, here's the classroom, boom, put them together, job's done. We want to be really thoughtful about principles that guide us and to constantly look at these principles, aspire to improve upon them, and then alter course and continue to launch and iterate, as we love to say at Google, as we're bringing technology and encouraging educators to bring technology that meets their needs.
In a meaningful way, too.
In a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So with that being said, here are the ones that we're going to go through today.
We are.
And I'll let you kick off with the first one.
The first one, excellent. The first one is, principle 1 is personalised and measured. Every learner has unique prior knowledge, cultural experiences, mindsets, and interests. Therefore, learning is most effective when the content is tailored to the uniqueness in its complexity, format, and context. So, in the classroom, this is differentiation. Differentiation is attending to the personalised learning needs of your students. Now, before I joined the team at Google, teachers at my school were actually using Google Classroom to streamline their differentiated learning tasks.
Something that's really hard to do often in the classroom.
It is. But in addition to creating the groups based on student ability and skill sets, teachers would be able to send out differentiated learning tasks and assign these to small groups and individual students. I think that the goal of differentiation in the classroom is maximum student growth and individual success.
Absolutely. I think back when I was in the classroom, the number of times where I'd say, okay, this one size fits all, and you just hope that it actually gets to the masses isn't always the most effective. So it's good to hear that technology can help address those individual needs.
Does play a part in helping us differentiate, definitely. Principle number 2 is collaborative and diverse. So, learning happens most effectively in a collaborative setting. This can be through interactions between learners and experts, between learners and their peers, or even between learners and other learners that they can teach. When we engage with each other, we see beyond our own experiences and understand what we have learned in a wider context. An example of this collaboration is between Emerging Sciences Victoria and John Monash Science School. Emerging Sciences Victoria is a virtual school that brings astrophysics and nanophysics and biotechnology and other advanced science courses to Year 10 students in over 30 regional and metropolitan schools across the state of Victoria. It offers students with virtual classes in real times in their own schools, delivered by John Monash Science School teachers with the support of John Monash experts and working scientists from across the world. So not only are these two schools in collaboration in creating the program, students, teachers and experts in the field are in collaboration too.
I think it's really cool because you think about, it used to be, at least in my classroom, I was at the front of the classroom delivering the knowledge. And when you have schools across an expansive territory, working at different times in different areas, perhaps on different projects, you bring all of that learning into one place.
That's right.
They're sharing it back and forth. And I think it's probably shifted, and I don't know if you would attest, but students, as you mentioned, sharing information back and forth, and it's much more of this kind of cyclical learning process as opposed to
back and forth.
Yeah.
That's right. That is right. Now on to principle number 3. This is project-based and self-managed. So, in order to create self-directed and lifelong learners, students should be given ownership over their learning. This includes supporting learners' metacognition of their learning process, and as well gradually giving them more responsibility and choices. Where we see this has actually been in the Menai-Kalani community of learning in East Auckland. Some students there start school with lower achievement levels than students in other regions. Menai-Kalani chose Chromebooks to support its learn, create and share pedagogical approach and manage budget challenges. Research on this program has actually shown that if a child present over 3 years in a Menai-Kalani school, the rate of gain in writing was twice that expected nationally. This means that these students, on average, made more than 1 year's progress above the expected rate per year they were there for 3 years. Learning is more visible, and students have an authentic audience for their learning, which has ultimately contributed to them being more engaged and empowered.
I think this is an awesome example when we think about, again, the technology coming in.
Yes.
And the teachers were already doing awesome things with these students, knowing
Yes.
where they were on their grade level, but
Yes.
we use the word amplify a lot, using the technology to spread that learning across, the Menai-Kalani is across a lot of New Zealand for that matter.
It is.
And so they can take these practices and then share it out across their network. Just like anything that you're working on, you could potentially replicate and share out for the betterment of others.
That's right. And our 4th principle is conceptual and experiential. This is deeper thinking. This is the ability to answer questions that go beyond mere facts, and most effectively when a learner constructs their own understanding by themselves, rather than that passive transmission of knowledge from their instructor. Brent, can you tell me a little bit about Google's 20% time?
I'm so glad that you asked, because when you brought up this example, it's something that's very near and dear to us at Google.
It is.
Some of you may have heard, but for those of you who have not, we have this idea of 20% time at Google. And what that means is we spend 100% of our time that's spent at work on one thing or one job or on one team in many cases. At Google, we have this idea of, if we allowed the workers on that team perhaps to take 20% of their time and go and invest that into something that they can explore on their own or fix and break things on their own, there's a good chance, tinker around, that's a good word, tinker around in something. They'll actually probably uncover something that, one, not only interests them, but two, probably a great way to develop a new product or a new tool. Do you know what the best 20% project of all time is?
It's so one of three, in my opinion. Gmail.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty big. Actually, my favorite has to be Google Cardboard.
Yes, another 20% project.
Uh-huh.
And now we have virtual field trips for students. Who would have known?
Fantastic. Or excursions.
Absolutely. I love those expeditions. But yeah, so that's 20% time, and I think it's awesome as you talk about this example of how,
So, did you know that we do a version of 20% time in schools?
I do.
You do?
Tell me a bit more about it, though.
It's actually called Genius Hour. And that's what happens. Students find a passion or an interest, and they actually put some time of their work to go and investigate what this passion or interest is. And my favorite Genius Hour project actually belongs to a boy named James. He's from Innaburra School in the Sutherland Shire of New South Wales. So James has dyslexia, and he wanted to answer the question, how can I tell the world about dyslexia from a kid's perspective? And what resulted was an informative and inspiring and heartwarming video that went viral with the message that dyslexia wasn't something to be looked down on, but it was actually something to be proud of.
Love that. Especially, again, giving those students time to explore things that they're interested in. That's definitely something we want to use to guide how we think about how technology might play into that.
That's right.
So to recap, these are some of the learning principles that we think about. I want to reiterate that technology is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the end-all be-all of the future of education, but as we bring it in meaningful ways, as our Google for Education adoption team works with schools across Australia and New Zealand and the larger world for that matter to figure out how we can bring those tools in an effective way, that's what we're really in it for, because we want those magic moments to happen when the technology and the teaching come together in a really beautiful way. So there'll be lots more conversation to have around this. I know
definitely.
You're going to be out in schools across both countries over the course of the year, figuring out what's going well and how we can best support those needs.
That's right. I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm looking forward to getting back in there and seeing the amazing things that both you and your students are doing with technology.
Absolutely. So with that being said, I think one challenge for those of you listening is, how do these learning principles apply? Let us know. We love feedback in every regard, and curious to see, how it plays out in your classrooms.
And remember that Q&A feature, Brent.
Absolutely. Every one of our sessions tonight has a Q&A. We want to make this as interactive as possible, so please be sure that you're submitting any questions that you might have. If you're joining us on demand afterward, there'll be some information shared with you on how you can get in touch with our team at a later time if you have any additional questions. We look forward to our continued time together this evening.